few minutes. My name's Jeff Pashkowski, and for the past 5 years, this would have been the 6th year, I've been the director of the girls multi-district camp in Colorado Springs, where all the affiliates from Rocky Mountain District and Pacific District and sometimes Northern Plains District send girls that are selected from their affiliate camps as part of the national development process. So welcome to all of you. We're sorry that we had to cancel the camp this year. Hopefully there'll be a camp again next year, but time will tell on that. Today, my thanks go out to Kristen Wright and Heather Mannix and Joe Bonnet from USA Hockey, who are joining us and actually have put this together for the most part. So we do have, as I said, Kristen Wright, Heather Mannix, and Joe Bonnet, who is the Rocky Mountain ADM person that probably all of you have seen at some point in time, because Joe's been our ADM manager for a number of years now. Also with us, we have Natalie Rossi, who is an ACHA coach at Grand Canyon University, also a youth coach with the Arizona Kachinas, and Kristen Steele, who is a Division III coach at Connecticut College, a longtime friend of mine, and I'm glad you could join us, Kristen. She also is my counterpart for the Atlantic District, so she runs the Atlantic affiliate camp. So with all of that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Wright.
Thanks, Jeff. We really appreciate the support that we get from the Rocky Mountain District and the great work that we've seen both the Rocky Mountain and Pacific districts do with their player development program and the multi-district camp that they host every year in Colorado Springs. We're definitely disappointed that it's not happening this year, especially since it's in Joe and I's backyard, but we do want to give you some of the programming and information that you would have received during that camp and also at your state affiliate tryouts throughout the spring. So I'm going to share my screen, and while I'm doing that, if you could go ahead and type into the chat one hockey related goal that you have. This will be a good one today. We don't have any goals coming in. That's all right. A lot of times we see things. Heather, what do we see? We want to play college hockey, want to play Division I hockey.
Want to get faster, want to be better at stick handling. Oh, here we go.
Sharpen my skills and keep up with other girls. I've only been playing for a year and I just want to get better. Sam, I love that. That's a great goal. I love that it's specific to what you can work on right now. We think your goals are really important because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about tonight are going to be tools to help you reach those goals. And so one of the first things we want to talk about are the opportunities available in women's hockey. We offer, programming at the U18 level, the U22 level, the World University Games level for ACHA players, and then of course our women's national team program and our Olympic team. Our U18 program does come directly out of our district tryouts and out of your multi-district camp that you may have had the opportunity to attend after your state camp. We have canceled all of that programming this year. We're planning to evaluate players throughout the fall to hopefully pick a U18 team for the 2020 World Championships that'll be in January. We want to be transparent with that. We're working with COVID as much as everybody else to try to make the best decisions for our U18 pool, from potential camps, which would be very small, to also how we'll evaluate players once everyone's back on the ice playing games. Again, to make sure that we are seeing the players in this player pool, but also being safe with all of our players as well. And so, Natalie, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities available to players at the NCAA and ACHA level?
Yeah, definitely. So as you can see on the slide here, NCAA, you have your Division I, which I think is a lot of what a lot of us think about when we're in high school too. So that's your Harvard, your Wisconsin, your Minnesota, just a lot of those bigger schools that you do see. And then you have NCAA D3. And as you can see on the breakdown on the slides here, D1 has 41 schools, D3 has 67. And if you want to see all of those, there's a link, but it's really good to kind of look through and see how those schools perform. And then we have ACHA, and in the ACHA, we have Division 1 and Division 2. And your ACHA is your typically it's considered club hockey overall. I think all four are great options for anyone who's looking. One of the biggest things that I like to talk about with our student athletes is finding what you actually want from your experience in college. So we talk a lot about the balance between hockey, life, and school, and considering what you want that to look like while you're at school is huge when you're picking which avenue you want to go down for college hockey, as well as skill set and recruiting opportunities.
Thanks, Natalie. Kristen Steele, anything that you'd like to add? I know you coach at the NCAA Division III level. Natalie coaches at the ACHA Division I level. Any differences about Division I and Division III on the NCAA side that you'd highlight?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd say it's great to just see how many more opportunities exist than even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, decades ago when I started, there was like 11, right? So it's nice to see big schools, small schools adding, which I think is really great for all of you guys who are looking to potentially play past high school. I think, with Division I and Division III, the Division I schools, which Natalie already said, people tend to focus on right away because scholarships, because it's just the schools that you've heard of more often. Division III, more opportunities. And I think that's important to recognize. But definitely it's not scholarship, but you have a little bit more of a broader range of things that you're able to do there, right? So you're able to really be part of the college life in totality, whereas at the Division I schools, and it's a great option, but you're probably sacrificing something along the way. And so, and I'm really excited about the ACHA schools because I think it just gives people, it doesn't lock you into certain areas of the country. And I think that that's really important, especially in areas where, if you don't want to come to the East Coast, you don't have to anymore. So it's great.
Hey,
Kristen, you make a great point. I think it's so important because the ACHA right now has, I don't know the exact number of schools that are west of the Mississippi, but I know we have 3 in Colorado, we have 1 in Utah, we have 2 in Arizona. I went out east and played college hockey, but we didn't have the option to play at Arizona State or Grand Canyon where I was going to high school at that time. So having those options in your district provides you just, further, again, almost 200 opportunities on where you can choose to go to school, as Natalie said, for academics, social, price point, location, hockey, all of those things. You just have so many more opportunities to make that decision. And so when we show, it's awesome because there are so many girls out of the district playing at the collegiate level, right? Again, over 50 girls are currently playing in the ACHA. You have 23 women from the district at the NCAA Division I level and 61 women from the district that played this season at the NCAA Division III level. And, you have representation from most of your states, and it does vary by year, but those are great numbers to see playing at the collegiate level out of the Rocky Mountain District. And so the next piece is, we have this awesome women's Olympic team who won a gold medal in Pyeongchang in a very exciting shootout. And we like to ask, what did these Olympians do to get here? How did they make this team? And we get asked this question all the time, like, why didn't I make it out of state camp to multi-district? How do you make it to national camp? What is this magical formula, right? What is this magical formula that creates successful athletes that either make teams, make it to Division I? And I'll be blunt, I'll say it right off the bat. It's not a magic formula. It's really, honestly, almost all the time, some of the same answers. So I'm going to shoot it back to, I'll start with Kristen Steele again on what are those things that you guys always hear are the big difference makers for those athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I hear a lot that, oh, people only look at people from this area, or they only look at people from this area. And the fact of the matter is that coaches will look at players from any area that will make their team better, right? So I think that we're all looking, obviously, for skill level. And that's kind of I want to say the easy one to pick out, right? And say, well, if my skills are really good, should be a no-brainer. But there are people whose skills are really good, but their hockey sense is limiting, right? Or maybe their compete level isn't quite where we want it to be, or they just don't really have the desire, to be quite honest. So they have really good skill, but they're missing some other pieces. So, we want players, and all coaches and your teammates want players who compete at a high level, who really want to be there, who every drill, every game is important. People with a high compete level, they're hard to play against and fun to play with, right? They look like they want to be there all the time. We want people with some hockey sense. So they're probably not the players in a drill and then running to the back of the line for the party that I still haven't found yet. They want to finish their drill. They want to finish their game. They want to take advantage of every opportunity they have. But people with hockey sense, right, when you're watching them in a game, they see the game a couple steps ahead. They kind of know where the puck's going. They know what their teammates are going to do ahead of time. If they're a goalie, they already know where you're going to shoot. So it's just a sense which you can learn by watching a lot and maybe picking up some video and dissecting it a little bit and studying the game, which I think is a really big thing. And then being a really good athlete is important. You have to be fit. You have to have stamina. You have to be, faster or stronger than somebody, or smarter, right? And you have to take care of yourself. If you're slower, you have to find a different way to compete, right? I'm the big slow kid. I'm going to cut you off so that you can't get in front of me, and therefore you're faster, but you still can't win. And I think, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who use their tools and who improve their tools. So.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's that, like we say, ability to keep up physically and mentally, and those things come hand in hand, right? You got to use your body to protect the puck. So you have to think it and do it at the same time. Those skills are both physical and mental. And Joe Bonnet, it's so great to have you on the call. And we wanted you to talk a little bit to the group about the importance of good habits.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And thanks for having me on. And thanks, Jeff, for everything you do for Phoenix and Rocky Mountain. And this is great stuff. It's interesting, just to go back real quick to that slide. When I see Division I and all the way down to ACHA Division II, 187 opportunities. And if you athletes have dreams of playing college hockey, the dream is there at 187 schools. And there's nothing better to going to school and wearing your school colors and having hockey part of your life while you're in college, at no matter what level. So it's a great experience. If that's a goal of yours, go for it, because you're going to have a blast. And it's a healthy environment. You're working out, you're playing the sport, you're doing well in school. And it's just hockey's a great partner to have with you as you go through college. But in terms of habits, to me, it goes off a little bit of what Kristen was saying. To me, habits is your lifestyle. How do you choose to kind of live your life? Do you have a sporty mentality? Are you fit? Do you pay attention to your training? Do you pay attention to your nutrition, especially as you get more serious with your hockey? And if you live life well and you have really good living habits, you're going to have a really good chance to further your career. But beside from the obviously good habits and stick handling and showing up on time and, nutrition and that kind of stuff, I also think personal skills and habits, being kind to people, please and thank yous, being on time, filling out forms on time, being proactive in your recruiting. Don't sit back and blame all the coaches and parents for not, exposing you. Be proactive, pick up the phone. Call coaches and see what they need next year. Maybe make on-campus visits and introduce yourself to staffs. And if all that comes from internally, if you're self-motivated and you want to accomplish your dream and you go for it and you do it longer than anybody else, good things are going to happen to you. So, again, to me, when I was at the college level, the kids that were a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, that worked extremely hard in the weight room, they shot a lot of pucks. Sometimes they didn't go to the drive-ins or the movies or hanging out with their friends sometimes because training was a little bit more important. Those were kind of the kids that kind of fulfilled their dreams. So, I mean, this is great conversation, and habits is just your lifestyle. Be a good person, work hard, and work harder and longer than anybody else.
That's great advice, Joe. I really appreciate that sporty lifestyle piece of it. It's a big piece of becoming an athlete that Heather will touch on in a little bit. Another piece is it's a journey. I think everyone that's talked so far has talked about all the different pathways that you can take to get to your goals. And everyone's going to look a little bit different. We've got this awesome incline in Colorado that's, but it's step by step straight up. And that's not what life is like. And it's definitely not what your journey in hockey is going to be like, especially when it comes to your goals. There's going to be some zigzagging. There's going to be some learning, which in Chutes and Ladders is really getting to go down the slide, which is actually pretty fun. So I think learning is fun. And so you're not always going to be going up, and you're not going to be going up at the same rate as the teammate sitting next to you or your friend that plays another sport. You just have to accept that it's going to be a different path for every single one of you. You're not all going to end up in the same college locker room or at the same school in the same city. And that's okay. That's what makes life exciting. And those challenges that come along the way as you learn to get better are what are going to make you a stronger, more determined person and a hockey player, which are those characteristics that we're really looking for in those athletes. And so we want you to take responsibility for your own development. At this age, you're going to have coaches and parents. You're going to have other people around you supporting you, your teammates. But at the same time, sometimes you're not. And coronavirus is a great example of all of us trying to figure out how can we get better at home by ourselves. And sometimes it does mean, like Joe said, shooting those extra pucks and being, excited to go out and practice our skills, even when no one's watching, when no one's requiring it. And a piece of that that's important is being a good teammate. And so I want to shoot it over to Natalie to talk a little bit about what it takes to be a good teammate, especially at this high school age.
Yeah. So being a good teammate a lot of the time kind of coincides with being a good friend, honestly. So you're there, you're supporting one another. And I think also part of being a good teammate a lot of the time, what I'm finding is standing up for other people within your locker room too. So being that person who's willing to have the voice of reason when you see something that you don't completely agree with, I think is absolutely huge. And going to your coaches in those moments. But being a good teammate is supporting one another on the bench when you see someone's down or had a really bad shift, right? That moment of, hey, like, yep, I'll recognize it too. That wasn't our best shift that we've ever had, but let's move on together. Like next time we're going to make at least one good pass and it'll be better than last time, right? So having those moments of honesty with one another and picking your teammates up. And a really good example comes to mind for me. I have one of my players on my college team, and every time she's going on the ice, because she says to her line mate before they go out, I'll see you out there, bud. And every single time for all three of them, it's just this moment of like, yep, we're going on the ice. We're going to go do our job. I know that you believe in me. I believe in me now too, because of that moment. But being a good teammate is giving that 100%, all those good habits that Joe just talked about. But on top of that, how are you supporting the people around you? And how are you taking that moment to read the people around you? Do they need something, extra positive today because they had a bad day? And really taking that time and learning your teammates is so huge, because if you don't have that cohesion, right, you don't want to be there, so your teammates aren't going to want to be there. And everyone always plays so much better when it's cohesive.
Natalie, I love that you talk. Really, all of it was about communication, right?
Yeah.
Having difficult conversations when things aren't going well, having awesome conversations when things are going well, talking to make sure we're all on the same page before we get on the ice. That communication with your teammates, positive communication, is so important. So that's a really great thing to remember, is as teammates, communicating all the time is going to definitely help increase those bonds, make everything a little bit better. And then let's talk about building confidence. So we're going to go over to Heather. And what does it take, especially at this age level? What can they do to help build their confidence?
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I think that building your confidence is one of the most important things that you can do. I mean, everybody focuses a lot on the physical skills and the physical aspect of sport, which is very important, but the psychological and the confidence piece, it goes hand in hand with those physical skills. And if your confidence isn't where it should be, your physical skills are going to suffer as well. And so this also kind of goes back to communication, right? So being a good teammate means communicating with your teammate, but building confidence within yourself is communicating with yourself. And so one of the things that you can focus on that will make such a big impact is your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself when you're out on the ice? What are you saying to yourself when you're off the ice? You know, we always talk about how, like, if your thoughts were up on a loudspeaker, what would everybody else think? You know, are you saying like, I got this, you know, or are you saying, you know, are you getting down on yourself? Like, that's such a stupid pass. It was such a stupid play. The fact of the matter is we're all going to make mistakes. This is a game of mistakes. It's how you react and how you bounce back from those mistakes. And so one of the best things that you can do is always keep that self-talk. Make sure that it's positive. You're always building yourself up just the same way that you're building up your teammates. And if you can do that consistently, you're going to see that you'll be able to bounce back from the mistakes that everybody else makes, and that's going to separate you as a player.
Thanks, Heather. And I skipped over the coachable piece, and I'll send this over to Kristen Steele. What would you like your athletes to do to be coachable?
In general, I want my athletes to think that it's a partnership. So I want to be able to convey information that I'd like them to try to make the whole team better, and hopefully teach something. And I would like athletes to trust that the information that we're providing and the skills that we're asking them to perform are things that we think will make them better. And I think that going around and doing a lot of camps and clinics in addition to our own team, something that I see a lot is, well, that's not how I did it with this coach, or that's not what I was told before. And I think in these situations, we can all learn a lot from each other. And if you are coachable, if you're willing to be coached, you'll take some of the information, try it, and hopefully it works for you. And if it doesn't, you've, if nothing else, learned that doesn't work for you. But you may have just picked up a new skill or a new thought process on how to do things. And so I think you can always get something from a coach, even if it's not your own, at camps and clinics, and from your own coach, right? They want you to be able to communicate. They want you to be willing to try new things. And they want you to ask questions. And I had talked about the trust piece before. I really don't think any coaches purposefully ask you to do things that they don't think will help you. But if you can't trust that and there's a fight, we really can't, it's harder to work together, and it's harder to get the best out of both sides. So, you know, we try to tell our players that we want them to make mistakes. We actually want you to make mistakes. And until somebody reacts poorly when you make a mistake, you have to trust that that's what they want. So really just being able to take the information and giving your best is what I'm looking for. Just people to try it.
Yeah, I love the trust factor there, and trusting that your coaches are really there to help you get better. I mean, you might not always like what they say, but at the same time, you know, that they're there because they've they like coaching kids. They like helping kids get better at hockey. It's a great segue back to Joe. Joe, can you talk a little bit about what should they be looking at as they pick the best youth or girls program for their development while they're still playing at that, 14, 16, 19 level, and potentially also at the college level? What should they be looking
Right. So I think what's really important is you find a program that fits you. And what we used to tell recruits is, there's big state schools, there's small liberal arts colleges, there's military schools. And I think at the age that the girls are at now is that it would make sense for them to start researching those different institutions. Do you feel comfortable on a large campus, small campus, engineering campus, that type of thing. And then from there, you can start to pare your schools down. So that's a broad approach. But I think specifically for hockey, I think ultimately it's going to be the relationship between you and the head coach. And notice I said head coach. So I think a lot of kids get swooped away with assistant coaches, and assistant coaches tend to move around and bounce around. And in the end, the assistant coaches don't make the final decision. So, if a certain school shows a lot of interest to you and really wants you to be on your campus, do not blow that off. That's a very, very important thing. When go to where you're wanted, right? And really build good relationships with the head coach and the assistants as well. And then what's really interesting right now, Kristen, what's going on is that I think there's a new type of head coach that's starting to emerge in the sense of coaches that really have a good foundational grasp on skill development. And I think the old school college coaches, it would kind of come in, fit into my system, and we're going to win games. And I think the new young coaches that are getting jobs and getting promoted right now, they're really into skill development. They're really into player development. And there's a real solid player development foundation built within that college. So as you walk around and as you look at schools, obviously you want to go to a school that fits you. Obviously you want to have a good relationship with the coach, but do they have a plan and a system for your 4 years to develop you as an individual hockey player? Can you be developed individually within a team environment? And the modern coaches that are doing that right now are having a lot of success. And I think there's a lot of happiness within those programs because individuals are getting better. The team is all on the same page. And ultimately they're building success through development of skills, not necessarily systems.
Thanks, Joe. And Heather, do you want to tag off of that a little bit and talk? I know we have some younger players that are on or might be listening to this that would still be trying to decide what program they might want to play for next year or the year after. How does what Joe say tie into some of that youth hockey, girls hockey, stay in the state, leave the state decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest and hardest decisions that are made, especially right now in this high school timeframe, is where am I going to play next year? And am I better off playing on a youth team or am I better off playing on an all girls team? And I think there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's what is best for you. And at the end of the day, it's what program is going to help you develop the most. And so whether it's a youth program or it's a girls program, it's all about your development. And we're getting to a point now where we have so many opportunities for girls to play and stay in their home area. And it's not necessarily how it used to be when I grew up, where you had to be in a hockey hotbed to be able to be seen or to, a scout to see you. So it really comes down to what is the best for your development. And it doesn't matter what that program actually is, whether it's youth or whether it's girls, it's what opportunities are you going to have to be able to develop within that program.
Thanks, Heather. And with that, I think this is a good segue. We're lucky tonight to have a special guest on the call with us, Nicole Hensley, gold medal winning Olympic goalie from your district. She's from Lakewood, Colorado, went to Lindenwood University, has been with our women's national team program for a while now. We're so grateful to have you. If you want to tell the group what you've been doing during COVID, how it's been, and a little bit about your journey.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here and get to talk with you guys. So I hope you guys are listening. They gave a lot of really, really good points during that presentation, and a lot of stuff that I thought related to my journey as well. And like Kristen said, I'm from Colorado. Like they just touched on, not exactly a hockey hotbed. I was actually recruited through video. But yeah, my recruitment process, I played boys hockey all the way up through my sophomore year of high school. And then I switched over and started playing girls after that. So I was kind of, some might say, behind the eight ball recruiting wise. But for me, I sent out a lot of videos, sent a lot of emails to a lot of coaches. I believe I went to district camp for the Rocky Mountain District 3 times, and I got selected to national camp once. And yeah, I was recruited on video. Lindenwood liked what they saw, and I actually committed to them March of my senior year. So very, very late, especially by today's standards. So committed them in March, was on campus in August, and was fortunate enough to get some opportunities to show what I could do. And from there, I kind of took the starting spot, was fortunate to start my 4 years there. And then through college, I started getting invited to some national team camps, including August Fest and Winter Camp during my junior and senior year. And then was picked for the 2016 World Championship team, where we won gold in Kamloops. And then was the starting goaltender for the 2017 Worlds in Michigan, where we won gold. And then after that, that May, we had Olympic tryouts, which is basically the 45 top people in the country they bring in, and you scrimmage for 3 days, and it's a really, really intense 3 days. And was fortunate that I performed well there, and got picked for the team. Moved to Florida for about 6 months, and we all lived together and competed down there, and went to Pyeongchang and had a pretty good tournament as a team. And fortunately, Joss and Maddie really showed out in the shootout there. And so, yeah, it was just a bunch of screams after that. So definitely a moment I'll never forget, standing on the blue line with everyone singing the national anthem. And the victory tour after that was pretty cool. And since then, I've been playing in the PWHPA and still in the women's national team player pool. So during COVID, I was doing a lot of hand-eye and visual trainings. So since couldn't get on the ice, tried to, stay sharp with those things. And then I was using a backpack full of heavy books as my basically sandbag or weight vest, however you want to put it, to just try and add some weight to some body weight exercises. And that was a fun, innovative time, but glad to be back in the gym, that's for sure.
Oh, that's funny, Nicole, but so realistic for a lot of people training right now. You have a background in strength and conditioning. Is there any advice or specific exercises you would tell these girls, these 14 to 17-year-olds, that they should be doing off the ice to try to get stronger and faster?
Yeah, I still think I definitely would encourage you guys to play multiple sports. There's so much you can learn, like strategically, from playing other sports. There's so much you can learn, about your body, the way you move, different things like that by playing other sports at the same time. It's a really big time to be doing, jumps, plyometrics, things like that, to develop that explosive strength and speed. And I think a lot of learning to do exercises properly is really big, because when you learn to do them properly at a young age, you continue to do them properly as you get older. So I think, I wouldn't be too concerned about the weight or, how much is on the bar, different things like that. I would be more concerned about, doing the exercises, whatever they may be, properly, because you'll have that for life.
That's great advice. And I know, you say you were recruited late kind of in your process, but were there certain things that once you were recruited to Lindenwood, or once you were more involved with the women's national team program, that you needed to change about what you were doing to, whether it's nutrition, training, on ice, off ice? Is there advice that you would give to the kids to maybe do earlier that you may not have had on your list of things you were doing?
Yeah, I think for me in high school, we did we did dry land training, and it was just a bunch of like running at the time. So I had never really been in a weight room, never really experienced any of that, never picked up a weight or really did any sort of exercises. So I think that, if you can get a jump on that, that can be big, just help with your development in general. I think the nutrition side of things was something that I didn't really catch on to until I was an upperclassman in college. I think a lot of college athletes have the mentality of, well, I burn off all these calories when I'm lifting and when I'm at skate all the time, so I can kind of eat whatever I want so I can get away with it. But when I started eating better and paying attention to what I was eating, I just felt better in general, like day to day, felt more awake, more energy. And obviously those things just propel you to be able to do your job even better on the ice. And that's kind of the end goal, right? With the nutrition and anything you're going to do off ice is how is it going to help me get better as a player?
Yeah, Nicole, that the nutrition part and what you feed your body and how it fuels your body is so important, especially for young athletes. We always get asked, like, do you have any go-to healthy snacks? Do you have any go-to pregame meals that you'd recommend as ideas for some of the kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think my go-to snack always involves peanut butter or almond butter. That's like my favorite food group of mine, let's just say. But yeah, I think I like an apple and peanut butter, or I eat a lot of carrots actually, which I don't know, that's kind of weird, but fun fact. But probably my favorite pregame meal is like just some sort of marinated chicken breast with rice and a little small side salad, and I'm good to go. And a coffee with a couple extra shots of espresso, probably.
Yeah, I mean that helps. I love the carrots and peanut butter. I think that we have a few fans of that snack on this call. It's definitely a go-to for a lot of us. Heather, I think you had a question for Nicole.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the importance of kind of owning your own journey, right? That not everybody has the step-by-step. You said that you went to camp twice and was selected only once. You weren't recruited until March. We talk about the importance of not comparing yourself to other teammates and where they're at in their journey. How did you handle that? Not getting recruited until so late. How did you deal with that kind of pressure?
I think for me, a big thing that helped me out going through the recruiting process was having the support of the people around me. Obviously your family, but also the coach I played for in high school was she had coached in college before and was pretty knowledgeable about how to help us get to that level. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people that care about you and have your best interest at heart. I'm not talking about someone that's going to tell you you're great when you're not, but to have someone that's willing to go to bat for you, willing to fight for you. But at the same time, like, obviously you have to be willing to do those things for yourself. I was mostly talking to Division III schools, and she kind of had said to me, like, pulled me aside and asked me how their process was going. And I was like, well, I'm pretty set on this school. And she was like, what do you mean? Have you talked to this school, this school, this school, this school? And I was like, well, I mean, they all have goalies that are sophomore. That'll be a sophomore. So, like, why would I go there and sit for 3 years? And she was kind of like, well, you might need to believe in yourself a little bit more than that. Like, you don't think you can beat somebody out, or you don't want to try, like, and that was kind of eye-opening to me. I'd been kind of narrowed down my choices without even really putting a little bit of extra thought into it. And that's kind of, after that was when the opportunity with Lindenwood opened up, because they would have 2 sophomores at the time. And so I think that was a big thing. And I think also hearing you guys talk about how, this school that fits you, while I would have loved to play at like a Big Ten school like Penn State or Ohio State for the sports, like, learning for me, that wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to be able to sit in a classroom with 100, 200 people. So to kind of have that realistic mindset as well, that how and where was I going to learn, in the best way for me, I think was a big point as well.
That's such an awesome answer. And I think that's something that gets lost in this process is I was like this as a kid as well. You get so focused on the hockey portion that you kind of forget about the academics, or you kind of just push those off to the side, but you really have to find a place that fits well for you.
And as a goalie, I mean, you talk about being a good teammate. I think goalies sometimes are put in a unique situation in that way, because you are directly competing for that spot in the net with your teammate. What have you learned about being a good goalie teammate either at the collegiate level, the national team level, that you could share with the goalies that are listening in?
I think the cool thing about being a goaltender is nobody really understands what you do or what you go through like other goalies. It's like our own little special club. Nobody else is invited and nobody else understands, and we're not as weird as people think we are. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I think that was something that Maddie Rooney, Alex Rigsby, or Cavallini now, I suppose, that was something the three of us did really well. There was nothing but support every single time, somebody else was in the net, whether it was in the locker room, between periods, before the game, the night before, the practice before, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, whoever's in net, we want the team to win. It's about the team at the end of the day. And so I think, like you talked about earlier, not comparing yourself to other people. When you go out, you're competing against yourself. You're trying to be the absolute best that you can be, just like your goalie partners are trying to be the absolute best they can be. And at the end of the day, that's what's best for the team, is if all three goalies are giving everything they have every time they're inside the crease. And at the end of the day, the way things shake out, it may not be exactly what you want. And I think that that's where it's also important to have someone outside of the team to talk to. Because you don't want to be the person gossiping about whoever on the team, but it is important to like get out the way you feel and be able to express that. That's something I have found really important later in my career. And so having someone outside of the team to go to and talk to about things that wouldn't be like helpful for the team itself, I think is huge. So again, that support system comes into play.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions from the panel for Nicole? I'll throw it out with one last one then. Again, thank you for being on. I think a question we get asked all the time is, what is an obstacle or something that you had to overcome, like maybe not making a team, injury, something along those lines that you kind of set you back from your goals, and how did you come back and continue to compete and get back into your goals?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the big one for me was the fact, like, during my recruiting process, like every time I answered the phone, it was like, oh, we don't want you because you're too small, you're not fast enough, you're not this, you're not that. And I think for a while I did let that get to me and bring me down in a sense. Like I just felt like I wasn't good enough, to play in college anywhere really. And I think that was something I've always played with since then, is a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that, I went from like one D1 offer that I got in February of my senior year to the national team. I think that's, I think that just speaks to the hard work and the effort. And again, that everyone has, like you said, a different path, and you really never know, you're going to end up where you end up for a reason, and it's going to be the right reason. And at the end of the day, like the academics are way more important than the hockey. And obviously we hope everyone has an amazing experience in college, but at the end of the day, it's important to remember what you're going to take with you for the rest of your life.
That's great insight with that well-rounded, like what we're really looking for and what they're trying to get out of it. Nicole, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate your time, your insight. I'm going to pass it back to Jeff to wrap us up for the evening.
Thank you all for participating, for being online, for watching. I hope that this was informational for those of you players out there, and also for some of the state affiliate girls and women's reps that are on the call as well. And my personal thanks to Kristen and both Kristen and Christine, and Heather and Joe, and Natalie and Nicole.